Today I'm going to make a cushaw pie. First thing I've got to do is make the crust. So in the food processor here, I've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of sugar, and a ½ teaspoon of salt. So I'm just going to start out by pulsing a little bit to get those combined. And now I'm going to add a cup of butter, which is 2 sticks of butter that I took out of the freezer, and I cut it into little pieces to help it process faster. Now, this looks like more than a cup of butter, but it's because it was frozen and the way that I've got it chopped up. So now I'm going to pulse this to combine it. Now that I've got that to the consistency that I want it, you can see here it's real grainy, almost like sand. I put it in my mixing bowl here, and I'm going to start adding ice cold water a little bit at a time until it forms the crust. The recipe calls for 1/4 cup of ice water, but that will vary depending on the humidity, the kind of flour you use, just different things. So I don't want to add it all at one time in case it doesn't need that much today. And today it actually took almost a ½ cup of cold water to get it where I want it. And this is the consistency I want. It's just barely holding together. And I'm going to form it into a ball. Keep working it. May seem a little bit dry to start with, but it's going to all come together and it's going to make a ball. All right, I've kept working with it here. And now I've got it into a ball. If you can see the little bits of butter in there, that's going to assure that I've got a good flaky pie crust. So I'm going to divide this into 2 pieces because I'm making 2 crusts, 2 pies. And then I'll put those in the refrigerator for 10 to 15 minutes to let them chill. Now my pie dough is divided into 2. And I've got it wrapped in plastic wrap, and it's ready to go in the refrigerator for 10 to 15 minutes. It's been about 15 minutes, so I've got 1 crust out of the refrigerator, and now I'm going to start rolling it out. I'm going to make sure that it's got plenty of flour on it so it doesn't stick, and I'll try my best not to roll the flour out into the floor, which is what I usually end up doing. And I'm sure that I'm not using the proper technique. If you asked bakers and chefs, but I'm not a technique person. I'm a get it made and let's see how it tastes type person. Now that I've got the crust rolled out to the size that I want, it's time to transfer it into the pie pan. And I'm using a disposable pie pan because one of these pies is going to be traveling with me, so I don't want to have to worry about getting my pan back after I'm finished with it. So to transfer it, we just roll the crust up onto the rolling pin, and then lay it down on the pie pan. That's the easiest way for me to do it. I'll press it all the way down in there. And then I'll come back with a knife and cut off the excess from the edges. Now I'm just cutting off the excess around the outer edge here. And now I'm going to flute the edge just to make it a little bit decorative. Now to flute the edge, I just hold my finger and my thumb like this and take my other thumb and pull away from me. And do that all the way around. I realized that you might not have been able to see what I was doing there. So I was just putting my finger and my thumb here and taking my other thumb and pulling away. And that makes this nice little fluted edge here. So now that our crust is done, I'm going to make the filling and we'll continue with that. I'm ready to make the filling for the Cushaw pie. Now I use the same recipe as for pumpkin pie, but I substitute Cushaw pulp for the pumpkin pulp. Because of that, I may say pumpkin instead of Cushaw sometimes. I have been known to even say cashew instead of Cushaw. So if I do either of those, you'll just know that I mean Cushaw. So I've got 2 cups of Cushaw pulp here in my bowl. And you can see it. It looks similar to pumpkin. A Cushaw is a squash, and it tastes a lot like pumpkin, but it doesn't look like it when it's growing. A pumpkin is round and orange. A Cushaw is long, and it's green and white striped, but it tastes very good. So to the Cushaw pulp, I'm going to add 1/3 cup of white granulated sugar, 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of pumpkin pie spice, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to give that a stir to get it started here. I can already smell those spices. It smells like fall. Now I'm going to add 3 eggs, slightly beaten, and 1 can of evaporated milk. And where I'm from, the old folks used to call that a can of cream. Stir this together good. And now that I've got it all stirred together, I'm going to pour it in 2 pie crusts. So I'm just going to pour the Cushaw pie filling into these crusts. I've got my oven preheated to 450 degrees. I'm going to put these in and bake them for 15 minutes at 450. Then I'm going to turn the temperature down to 350 degrees and bake them for another hour. These are our Cushaw pies, fresh out of the oven. They're puffed up now, but they'll settle down as they cool. And after they get really cool, we'll cut a piece and we'll top it with some whipped cream.